I hadn't planned on standing up in front of 70-some-odd relatives and strangers on the most important day of my brother's life, but as I watched him take that microphone again, I realized there was no escaping it. It started innocently enough. My little brother Lucas, beaming with pride at his new bride, Nadia, and me, the reluctant maid of honor, fidgeting with my dress in the pew behind Grandma and Grandpa. But once Lucas got that grin on his face, half mischief, half terror, I knew the ceremony would never be the same. I still remember the morning of the wedding. I woke in our childhood home, now a floral-smelling bridesmaids-on-crack circus, tentatively stepping around bouquets of peonies and piles of satin shoes. The sun had barely risen, but my phone was already buzzing. Group texts from my parents. Don't forget the rings. Where's the cake knife? And a dozen Snapchats from the bridesmaids, each one declaring they were so ready or I can't believe he's marrying her. Honestly, I was more concerned about keeping my eyeliner from running than about Lucas's big speech. Over coffee in the kitchen, Mom caught my eye. Are you excited? She asked, perching on the countertop with practiced grace. I shrugged, stirring sugar into my latte. Yeah, it's Lucas. I gave her a sideways grin. I'm excited that he's marrying someone who bribes me with free electric car rides. She laughed, but her eyes were bright with tears. He's your brother. Today's momentous. I nodded, and for a second we just watched Dad stride in, adjusting his tie with the intensity of a security chief. His shoulders set as he saw me. You ready? He asked. As I'll ever be, I replied. He ruffled my hair, still tall enough to reach my eyes, and grinned. You're gonna be great. Great. I had no speech prepared, no compelling anecdote about our childhood, just a bubbling anxiety that if Lucas tried to surprise me one more time, I'd explode. By noon, the church lawn teemed with guests. White folding chairs aligned in perfect rows, an arbor festooned with jasmine and roses, and off to the side, a champagne station where I'd already burned through 3 flutes worth of bubbly water. Thank you, designated driver. The sky was a flawless blue, the air warm with spring perfume. Then I saw them Lucas, so handsome in his tux, pacing behind the arbor. Nadia, resplendent in lace and pearls, her eyes scanning the aisle for me. I slipped behind the bridal party, adjusting my strapless dress and clutching a small basket of rose petals. Grandma handed me the final hymn sheet and winked. You hold up the sign when you want me to start. Got it, dear? I turned the little wooden paddle she'd made, painted in my brother's wedding colors. Here comes the bride. Got it, Grandma? And in the hush that followed, I heard Grandpa mutter, please, let everything go smoothly. Famous last words. The ceremony began flawlessly. A quartet struck up Pachelbel's canon. Nadia's bridesmaids walked down the aisle, trailing chiffon train behind them, and finally she emerged, my little sister-in-law, glowing, practically floating on cloud 9. We all rose, cameras flashed, and I pressed my sign toward the musicians. The reel-to-reel vintage record player sputtered to life, and Nadia's father escorted her forward, tears so big they glinted in the afternoon sun. The vows were heartfelt, the ring exchange perfect. Pastor Henderson delivered a sweet sermon on love's endurance, peppered with amens and family jokes. Remember the time the wedding cake collapsed at Jenny and Tom's reception? No one was immune to his gentle ribbing. Then came the kiss, a collective whoop, and off we trooped to the reception tent, where linen-draped tables awaited, each set with menus printed on rose-gold cardstock. I found my seat at the head table, beside Grandma, between the bridesmaids and my parents, and exhaled. If I could just get through dinner without Lucas embarrassing me, I'd call it a win. But no sooner had I lifted my champagne flute in toast than Lucas hopped up, clinking his fork on the glass. All right, everybody, he boomed, voice echoing under the tent. Thank you for coming on this amazing day. It means the world to me and Nadia. He cleared his throat, flashed that grin, and I felt it, a shiver of dread. I caught eyes with Nadia, who looked blissfully unaware. Her best friend Jenna nudged me. Here we go. Lucas began innocently enough. You know, I always knew Nadia was special. From the moment I met her in the parking lot of our college library, groans bubbled around the table. The college parking lot? Already I could see where this was going. He paused for effect. I was standing next to the bike racks, trying to lock up my bike. I know, very romantic. And this girl comes tearing around the corner, splashes mud all over me, then keeps running. I thought, well, there goes my chance. He laughed, but the crowd was only half amused. And then, he continued, leaning into the mic. 3 months later, I see the same girl at the campus coffee shop, again spilling something on me. Latte this time. She's mortified. I help her clean it up. And well, let's just say she's been cleaning up my mess ever since. a smattering of polite laughter. I shot a look at Nadia. She was smiling, but her eyes flicked anxiously to me. Lucas plowed on. But let's rewind further back. My sister Sarah, here, he jabbed in my direction, used to lock me out of the house when I was a kid. Perfect. Childhood humiliation. I felt my cheeks heat up as the crowd turned toward me. He grinned, clearly enjoying the spotlight. One winter night, she told me I wasn't her real brother and to sleep in the shed. It was freezing. I almost died of hypothermia before Dad found me. He paused, then delivered the punchline. Thanks, sis, for toughening me up. I wanted to vanish under the table. Grandma gave me a sympathetic look. Mom's lips pressed together, as though holding back a scowl. Jenna mouthed, I'm sorry, from across the table. Lucas ignored the discomfort. And the worst part? She wouldn't let me back in until I said I was sorry for borrowing her tiaras. He chuckled. Sorry for that, by the way, Sarah. My face burned. I forced a laugh, something audible enough to suggest I was in on the joke. And that, he said, raising his glass, is why I'm standing here today with the woman of my dreams. He gestured to Nadia, because she's the only one brave enough to say, here's mud, let's get dirty together. That line scored a collective awe, but I knew the damage was done. He'd publicly roasted me in front of his new in-laws, the mayor of our town, half my college classmates, and a gaggle of horrified aunts. I clenched my fists under the table. If only he'd kept it cute. No need to mention the shed, the hypothermia, the tiaras. If only. And now he beamed. Please welcome my beautiful wife Nadia to say a few words. I blinked. His wife? Give her the mic now, hoping she could salvage the moment. He knew her well, too well. Nadia rose, smoothing her gown. The tent lights shimmered off her diamond necklace, and she gave me a quick, worried smile. Then she tilted her head toward Lucas and raised the mic. I promise I can handle any stain life throws at us, she began, her voice soft but clear. Mud, coffee, or childhood grudges. She paused, glancing at me. But I think we need a truce. My throat tightened. Truce? She was making peace at my expense. She took a breath, then continued. Lucas, you love your big sister so much that you wanted to honor every moment we laughed together, including the ones you survived thanks to her. She turned to me. Sarah, I'm so grateful you protected him, even if it was extreme. I felt tears sting. She was spinning my trauma into heroism, my humiliation into an act of love. Then the entire tent went silent. You could have heard a champagne cork drop. I met Nadia's eyes. She held up the mic for me, her expression radiating kindness. Sarah, she prompted. My heart pounded. I stood, wobbling on my heels, the spotlight now firmly on me. Grandma reached to steady me, and I blinked past the rows of expectant faces, searching for my parents. Mom gave me a thumbs up. Dad nodded fiercely. Jenna mouthed, You got this. I gripped the microphone with sweaty fingers, drew a breath, and began. Hi, I said, voice wavering. Wow, I didn't expect to be up here. A nervous smile. First off, Lucas, you were completely out of line. Nervous laughter. But thanks for reminding everyone that I'm the tough one in this family. You know it's a real talent. I leaned forward, lowering my voice conspiratorially. If you ever get in trouble again, I'll lock you in the old goat shed. Privacy, guaranteed. Polite chuckles. Grandma pretended to knit. Dad hid a grin behind his fist. I opened my heart. In all seriousness, though, I'm proud of you, little brother. From hypothermia to coffee stains, you've always bounced back. And Nadia, thank you for seeing that resilience. I gestured toward my brother and his bride. Together, you two are unstoppable. I took a shaky breath. So here's to family, messy, embarrassing, unforgettable. May your life together be full of laughter, understanding, and zero tiara borrowing. The tent erupted in applause. True applause. Not polite, but warm and genuine. Lucas clapped me on the shoulder, eyes shining. Nadia squeezed my hand, gratitude shining on her face. As I stepped down, Grandma hugged me, murmuring, That was wonderful. Dad winked. Jenna launched herself at me with a bear hug. Even a few guests came by, wiping happy tears. I returned to my seat, heart still racing, but glowing with something like triumph. The worst embarrassment of my life had become the best speech I'd ever given. And in that glittering tent, under strings of fairy lights and the scent of rose petals, I realized sometimes it takes a little humiliation to reveal your strength. And sometimes when your brother thinks he's being clever, his bride will save the day and give you the perfect moment to shine. I sat back down just as the DJ queued up a song, signed, sealed, delivered by Stevie Wonder, and our family took to the dance floor. Lucas twirled Nadia, Grandma and Grandpa swayed together, and I found Jenna waiting. Best rescue ever, she whispered, fist bumping me. I grinned, letting the music wash over me. Tonight my brother had embarrassed me. Then his bride had taken the mic, and the whole room turned silent, waiting to see what would happen next. I'd faced the moment head-on and come out stronger. But as the lights dimmed and the party roared to life, I felt a spark of curiosity. What other surprises did my brother and his new wife have in store? Because if there's one thing weddings teach you, it's that love and family always finds a way to keep you guessing. The first strains of Signed, Sealed, Delivered faded into laughter and chatter, and the reception tent exploded into life. Plates clattered as servers carried in trays of canapés, mini beef Wellingtons, goat cheese and beetroot tartlets, edible flowers on crostini, and the low hum of conversation swelled back up to a comfortable roar. I sank into my seat next to Jenna, adrenaline still buzzing through my veins like a second caffeine hit. Okay, she whispered, leaning in so only I could hear. That was epic. But I've got to know what happens now. Do we expect more surprises? I exhaled, scanning the tent. Lucas and Nadia were beaming at one another by the head table. Grandma had commandeered the mic again to roast the bridesmaids. I still haven't forgiven Tina for stealing my knitting needles. Dad was deep in animated conversation with the mayor. I have no idea, I admitted, grinning. But with these two, you never know. Just then, the lights dimmed and a spotlight clicked on the center dance floor. It was time for the father-bride dance, and as Nadia took her father's hand, everyone stood. The soft notes of my girl drifted through the tent, and Dad's eyes gleamed with tears as he swayed with her. I found my heart twisting in my chest, reminded how swiftly the day's emotions pivot between embarrassment, joy, and sheer love. Once the song ended, Grandma pulled me to my feet. "Come dance with your old grandma," she insisted. I allowed her to lead me onto the floor, enveloped in her warmth, and that familiar scent of lavender and mothballs. For a moment, the world slowed again, my embarrassment receding into the background as I realized how much this family meant to me, imperfections and all. Then, from the DJ booth, a new voice emerged, not the programmed playlist, but a live saxophone riff that sent a ripple of surprise through the crowd. Nadia's uncle, Victor, an amateur jazz musician, strode out, sax in hand, and launched into a sultry version of At Last. The impromptu solo drew cheers, and suddenly the entire tent transformed into a 1920s speakeasy. Guests shed high heels for barefoot dancing, and servers twirled to the music, balancing champagne flutes on their fingertips. I tugged Jenna forward. We have to join them. We dove into the swirling mass of revelers, flinging ourselves into Charleston kicks and swinging elbows, laughter echoing off the tent walls like bells. As we danced, I spotted Lucas weaving through the crowd, phone in hand. He raised it to me, eyebrows cocked. I raised an eyebrow back. He pressed record, mouth full of grin. "One more epic moment," his eyes asked. I rolled my eyes theatrically, then made a show of feigning alarm. What if someone made me give another speech? But instead, he simply handed me a glass of rosé and spun away into the crowd. I took a sip, the bubbles fizzing on my tongue, and felt completely alive. Later, when the live band, comprised of college friends of the couple, took the stage, the tempo shifted to upbeat pop hits and dance floor anthems. I snagged my phone and sent a quick text to Dad, "Meet me by the garden path at midnight. I have a surprise." Then I slipped out of the tent, neon fairy lights guiding me through a grove of olive trees. The night air was cool, scented with jasmine and promise. I rounded the bend to find Dad standing beside the old gazebo, where Lucas had once taught me to skateboard. He looked up, startled. "What's this about?" I tapped my phone. "Remember Grandpa's old vinyl collection? I found his record of Louis Armstrong. I thought, maybe you and I could play it for Mom on the lawn, the way Grandpa used to play for Grandpa." His eyes softened. "She'd love that." He paused. "I know I've messed up before, with the land sale and nearly cutting you out of Grandpa's legacy. But tonight, I just want to say I'm proud of you, Sarah, for standing up, for speaking your truth. You reminded all of us what family really means." My throat squeezed. "Thanks, Dad. That means everything." He opened his arms, and I stepped into his embrace, the world beyond the gazebo falling away. For a heartbeat, I let myself feel every regret, every triumph, every unspoken apology bridging the gap between us. Ready? He asked, stepping back and gesturing at the record player we'd set up on a folding table. I nodded. He dropped the needle, and the room filled with the warm crackle of vinyl. Then Louis Armstrong's voice floated through the air. I see trees of green red roses too. Mom emerged from the trees in her bridesmaid dress. Just her, sans bustle and corsage, drawn by the music. When the opening notes of What a Wonderful World played, she gasped, moisture shining in her eyes. Dad? She whispered. He reached for her hand. Dance with me? Under the soft glow of fairy lights, they stepped into the gazebo clearing, swaying in time to the music. Their laughter mingled with the horn, proof that healing, like the best music, bends and bends again until every misstep becomes part of the melody. I watched them, heart brimming. Then, brushing away a tear, I backed away, slipping into the night air, ready to return to the party, but not yet. I paused by the old oak tree, where, as a child, I'd carved my initials beside Grandpa's. I traced the letters faintly, Seth plus G, etched 17 years ago. Now a third name, Mom, Dad, Lucas, Nadia, would need space. I grabbed a small chisel and carefully carved a new symbol, a circle embracing the initials, our expanding family, forever intertwined. Inside the tent, the final chorus of the band's set played, an encore of Don't Stop Believin', and everyone joined in, voices rising in unison. Don't Stop Believin'. I re-entered, joining in the chorus, surrounded by cheering relatives, friends, and strangers turned kin. Jenna grabbed my hand, pulling me into the conga line snaking around the tables. My feet moved before my brain caught up, but I didn't care. Every laugh, every clap, every stomp was a beat in the symphony of the night. And then I saw her, Nadia, standing on a chair, holding her bouquet like a victory flag. She cupped the mic again, and the music softened to a playful interlude. Everybody, she called, voice bright. Before we wrap up, there's one more thing. She pointed at Lucas. He embarrassed me when we first met, so I think he deserves a little payback. She winked at him, and the crowd leaned in, hungry. Lucas swallowed. Uh-oh. Nadia beckoned him up beside her. Sing with me? She asked. He blinked. Sing? She nodded. Pick a song that sums us up. Something only the two of us would know. My pulse quickened. This was classic Nadia. No half measures, embracing the moment fully. She handed him the mic, and he glanced at her, uncertain. But Rogers and Astaire had nothing on his next move. He cleared his throat, then opened his mouth to belt. I got you, babe. Sonny and Cher. He cracked a few tentative notes, but Nadia joined, harmony perfectly in sync. Half the tent erupted, the other half joined in, arms linked, voices carrying into the night. The conga line halted, everyone craning to sing along, tears and laughter mingling as they belted out. I got you to hold me, to keep me from falling apart. I felt my own tears, happiness, relief, wonder, stream down as I sang. My brother and his bride, partners in every sense, had taken a moment of embarrassment and transformed it into something unforgettable. And in that spontaneous duet, they invited every one of us to share in their joy, to forgive the past, and to believe in the beautiful mess that love often is. When the final notes faded, the applause was deafening. Lucas and Nadia dropped into each other's arms, triumphant and unguarded. They turned to me, grins wide, and shouted, "Best sister ever!" I laughed loud, unashamed, knowing that this wedding, my brother's wedding, had been both my worst humiliation and my greatest triumph. A day defined by goosebumps, goosebumps of shock, goosebumps of pride, goosebumps of love. As the band launched into one last ballad, Here Comes the Sun, of course, I looked around the tent, at faces shining under fairy lights, at generations dancing together, at families mended and new ones forged. I understood, in that moment, the power of vulnerability to stand up when you're scared, to speak your truth, to forgive and to be forgiven. And I believed fully that sometimes the most embarrassing moments become the ones that define us, because they show us what we're made of and how deeply we're loved in return. So I raised my glass again to Lucas and Nadia, to family and to the extraordinary magic of imperfection. May every marriage, every gathering, and every life be as messy, as human, and as wondrous as theirs. And as the last notes floated into the starry sky, I whispered to myself, don't stop believin'.